A whale calf is floating on the surface in the warm waters of the Sea of Cortez. 200 kilograms of its body has been removed in a single, clean bite. This is not the work of a great white. The bite is too wide. Not the work of an orca. The wound is wrong. It is not, in fact, the work of any predator currently alive. The animal that did this has been extinct for 3.5 million years. And as of this morning, somewhere along this coast, it is back. The Megalodon enters shallow water alone. There is no mother nearby, no pod, no protection, only a body already engineered for violence. The newborn is just over 2 meters long, about the size of a grown man, with jaws already lined by fully functional teeth. And within minutes, it begins to hunt. There is no infancy, no vulnerable phase. Everything it will ever need, the killing instinct, the precision of the strike, the ancient blueprint of how the ocean moves and reacts, is already written into it from birth. The Pacific around it sits at roughly 24 degrees Celsius. By modern standards, for this latitude, that is unusually warm. A side effect of a planet humans have been heating for more than a century. And by complete accident, it happens to resemble the world this animal was designed for. When Megalodon still existed, warm coastal nurseries like this would have stretched across entire continents, shallow protected waters where young sharks could grow before moving into deeper ocean. Back then, the planet accommodated them. The modern Earth barely does. A few kilometers from this bay, the temperature begins to fall, and for an animal like this, cold water is not uncomfortable, it is catastrophic. The muscles slow first. Then the metabolism begins consuming more energy than hunting can replace. Eventually, the body reaches a point where every movement costs more calories than it gains, and in the open ocean, an apex predator that cannot accelerate is already dying. And now, 3.5 million years after the species vanished from the fossil record, a question returns for the first time in millions of years. Can it survive? The first prey is a grouper, mid-sized, slow, hovering near a rock formation that has shielded it from larger predators for years. But that defense is no longer relevant. The Megalodon takes it in 2 strikes and swallows the second half whole. But the hunger does not subside. The metabolism of this species was tuned for a sea that consistently produced enough biomass to keep up. But the current Pacific produces dramatically less. In the days that follow, the Megalodon works through almost everything in the bay capable of being caught. Smaller groupers, reef sharks, even a juvenile sea turtle that drifted in from outside the bay's mouth. And the small ecosystem inside the bay starts adjusting. Fish change their feeding hours. The remaining predators alter their territory. Schools that have used these reefs for years begin rerouting. Avoidance behavior travels through a healthy ecosystem the same way temperature does, slowly, indirectly, but completely. By the 8th day, something else had noticed the disturbance in the bay. A pod of orcas appears near the entrance. For orcas, the liver of a juvenile shark is recognized as one of the most calorie-dense meals available in the open ocean, and the megalodon, at this exact size, is the size their hunting playbook is written for. The orca is roughly 7 meters long, a meter longer than the megalodon, and it is approaching at the unhurried, methodical pace of an animal that has done this maneuver many times before. The megalodon retreats into the cloudy shallows where the orca cannot operate effectively. After several failed attempts, the orca abandons the chase and swims away. The megalodon has just survived an encounter in the modern ocean that is designed specifically to kill it. But this will not be the last such encounter. In the original ocean, the dominant threat to a young megalodon came from older megalodons. Adults hungry enough to eat their own juveniles when food got scarce. In the current ocean, the dominant threat is something entirely different. Across the 2nd and 3rd weeks, the megalodon's body changes faster than biology should reasonably allow. Meters get added quickly, the frame fills out, the shape lengthens into something the bay can no longer contain. The hunting strategy adapts in parallel. Early opportunism gives way to selectivity. The animal begins waiting for larger targets. Sea lions ambushed near rocks. Smaller dolphins, on the rare occasions one strays from its group. The body becomes more capable, the food becomes more difficult to acquire, and underneath both of those trends is the central problem this species will live inside for the rest of its life. The Pliocene Pacific contained roughly 3 times the large prey biomass of the modern Pacific. Whales were more numerous, migration corridors were denser, the sea was, in the most literal sense, simply fuller. That is not the case anymore. The buffet this body's metabolism was calibrated to depend on does not exist. It has not existed for 3 million years, and it is not coming back. By the end of the 4th week, the megalodon is 5 meters long, and the bay has nothing left to give. The depth is too shallow now, and it scrapes the sand on every routine pass. Whatever prey hasn't already migrated out has had 4 weeks to develop avoidance behavior. And the orca pod, having identified the bay as a feeding opportunity, now visits the entrance most days. The choice is binary: stay and starve, or leave and risk being killed in deeper water. There is a small mathematical advantage to the second option, but starvation is pushing him toward a risky decision. And the first thing the open ocean delivers is a kind of silence. But one thing is certain, the hunger is still there. By the 6th week, the Megalodon is 10 meters long, weighing roughly 5 tons, large enough that almost nothing in the open ocean is willing to test it. A Megalodon at this size requires somewhere in the range of 90,000 calories per day, and it has not eaten anything substantial in over a week. So when the Megalodon detects the pressure signature of 2 large mammals moving north along the migration corridor, the body responds before any kind of conscious decision is involved. The calf is 8 meters in length, and the mother is 15. The Megalodon approaches from below. In the standard ambush method, this species refined over 20 million years of practice. The strike is fatal. Knowing it cannot rival the massive mother whale in a direct confrontation, the Megalodon retreats to a depth of 40 meters and holds position, waiting for the calf to bleed out. After 30 minutes, the Megalodon surfaces again to feed on its prey. This single calf is the most efficient meal it will ever encounter in this ocean. It is also among the rarest. A few days after the gray whale, the Megalodon comes across another predator, a great white shark. Fast, powerful, one of the ocean's most efficient hunters, a predator perfectly designed for the modern world. But today, it is facing something from another age, a ghost from the past. The great white shark, in the form it exists today, never lived alongside Megalodon. Its lineage expanded only after the giant vanished from the oceans. The great white escapes, and the Megalodon does not pursue. A prey item this small would demand too much energy for too little return. After the gray whale kill, the Megalodon begins tracking the migration corridor northward. The logic is simple. Whales follow predictable seasonal routes. Those routes are concentrated bands of biomass. If a single calf provides 60 days of calories, then living near the corridor is the most efficient way for an animal of this size to feed. But the logic stops working at approximately 40 degrees north latitude, because the water there is sitting around 12 degrees Celsius. For the Megalodon's body, 12 degrees is the threshold below which performance starts to fall apart. The metabolism slows, strike speed degrades, recovery time after a chase doubles. The animal becomes essentially non-functional, capable only of slow drift swimming. The Megalodon can sit at the boundary and intercept whales that come south through its window, but it cannot cross. A week later, the Megalodon attempts a sperm whale pod. The pod is composed of adult females arranged around a single calf. The Megalodon, operating on ancestral hunting logic, targets the calf, anticipating that the females will scatter or position themselves between the threat and their young in a panicked, uncoordinated reaction. But that assumption is wrong by approximately 3 million years. The females do not scatter. They rotate into a precise circular formation, tails turned outward, with the calf protected in the center. This is not a panic response. It is a defensive maneuver, and it did not exist when the Megalodon was alive. The Megalodon commits to a single charge. One of the females counterstrikes with her flukes. The blow lands on the Megalodon's flank with enough force to interrupt its forward momentum. It is not enough to injure. It is nowhere near enough to kill, but it is enough to communicate that this calf is going to cost more than it returns. A single serious injury could be enough to kill it. In the ocean, a wounded Megalodon wouldn't survive for long. The Megalodon has reached its full adult size, 17 meters long, 50 tons of body mass, the largest predatory shark in the modern ocean by such a wide margin that no other animal occupies the same category. But a predator that massive can no longer move unnoticed. It takes humans approximately 13 weeks to fully accept that something impossible is in the ocean. The early signs are easy to dismiss. A satellite tag on a tracked humpback stops broadcasting in deep water. A whale carcass washes up on a beach with bite damage that does not correspond to any known predator's dental geometry. A cargo ship transiting between Hawaii and the mainland files a sighting report describing a dorsal fin breaking the surface. Scientists and authorities now face an impossible decision. Do they keep the creature alive long enough to study one of the greatest predators in Earth's history, or do they eliminate it before it becomes a catastrophic threat to public safety and marine ecosystems? By week 14, the Megalodon has learned something important. Size alone is no longer enough. Adult blue whales are simply too dangerous. Winning the fight is not the problem. Surviving the injuries afterward is. And that matters for one reason. Blue whales only became this enormous after the Megalodon disappeared. During its absence, there was no longer a predator capable of keeping giant whales in check. Over millions of years, they grew larger and larger, eventually becoming the biggest animals to ever live. This is the cruel irony of the Megalodon's entire return. The whales it most needs to eat, the ones its biology is most calibrated for, have in its absence grown into a size class it cannot safely hunt. It can take the calves, but the adults belong to a world that moved on. And month by month, the Megalodon's reserves grow thinner, but its caloric needs never do. And somewhere within the quiet arithmetic of an ocean that has spent 3.5 million years adapting to life without its greatest predator, the same equation that once drove this species to extinction begins to unfold again. The modern ocean simply cannot sustain a creature of this scale forever. It is the last of its species, again. For the second time in 3.5 million years.